House Bill HB 2702. The short title of this bill is Federal Government Land Acquisition Consent. Now, this bill was introduced by Representative FINCHEM of LD 11 down near Tucson, and it will be heard in the House Land, Agriculture, and Rural Affairs Committee. That's a mouthful to say, isn't it?
It is. Yep.
For an immigrant like me, that is tough.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's going to be heard in that committee on Monday. And basically what this bill does is that it says, well, if you're going to have a transfer of land, or any other property for that matter, in such a manner that it goes to the federal government, and as a result of that, there is a loss of revenue, of tax revenue, that in order to do that legally, it has to be, or has to have the approval of the legislature. Makes sense, you know? You shouldn't take land away from us and not compensate us somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes, yep.
and that's basically, well, no, that's not, that's basically what the bill does, but it lost a lot more than that we don't really necessarily want. And so we read those bills, folks, so we look at and we know exactly what's in them. And Archie has some other things to mention about that bill.
Yeah, actually, this bill applies only to a private individual. It doesn't apply to any kind of other agency at all. It applies only to an individual, and it says that if you have a piece of property and the federal government has come to you and said we want to buy it, then if you reach an agreement with the federal government, then and if it's in a tax roll, you have to go and notify the Senate and the House of Representatives and let them know that you're going to be selling this property. Then they've put together a committee and they investigate into the sale, and then they say, well, yeah, okay, you can go ahead with the sale, or no, we're going to buy it. And so then the state then winds up buying your property, and they have to buy it on the same terms. I don't know necessarily that there's any major problem with that. I don't have a major problem with that. I think it's a little, a big brotherism. But the remaining portion of that bill, which I have a real problem with, and that's the portion of it which is in Section 4, which is entitled Legislative Findings. And those legislative findings are based upon the Enabling Act. And many of the findings that they set forth that the legislature has found are not to be found in the Enabling Act. They're just not there. And so if they're going to make this into a law, then they need to go back to the Enabling Act and comply with what the Enabling Act says.
Yeah, I don't think that they even know what Enabling Act is.
Oh, I don't either. I doubt there's very many people around here other than myself that's ever read it.
Yeah, well, I read it too.
Oh, did you? Okay, well, two of us.
Most of it anyway.
Two of us, well.
Yeah. Anyway, we are given a positive recommendation because it is in essence a good bill, but it has some problems in there. And folks, remember, every time we say something like this, remember that a bill can always be amended. If it has some good stuff and bad stuff, it can always be amended so that you can get rid of the bad stuff. Very seldom happens, but it can be done.